Hello. Can everybody hear me? I don't usually wear one of these. I'm usually pretty loud. If I start to swear a little bit, somebody just give me the thumbs down. I actually just went through last year, and I'm a DARE instructor as well, and they really had to calm me down. There's nothing worse than swearing in front of, fifth graders. They like it. Their families hate it. So a little history on me. I started with the Sheriff's Office in 1995. Worked there for about 6 years, and I moved over to the Roosevelt City Police to help them start their investigative program. Worked there for 5 or 6 years. Was asked to come back to the Duchesne County Sheriff's Office, and I started their investigative program there. So I was an investigator. I am a child abuse investigator by trade. That's what I've done most of my career. And now the last 2 years, I've been the chief deputy. And part of that, I'm a firearm instructor, and apparently I am the active shooter trainer. And so during this training, we're going to do a few things. We're going to find out what active shooter is. We're going to go through and do a couple of case studies on a couple of the bigger ones to show what changed in active shooter. And then we're going to go through in Duchesne County last year, or the year before, we did a big training. We shut down the admin office. We had active shooters running through. We had just like you guys, all the employees involved. And we did a scenario training to show how fast things go and to help you guys make a plan. To make a plan on what you would do in an active shooter. I look at this building is beautiful. I'm just running through here, I'm calling it a museum. It's absolutely great. I would love to work here every day. As far as an active shooter situation, it's a nightmare, right? You lock this door isn't gonna keep anybody out, right? They just knock through the windows, can't really hide from anybody in here. There might be some specific hidden places that you guys know about that nobody else knows about, right? No? Everybody knows everything, So when we started this active shooter, and I started this in the schools, there were two different ways of thinking. And we went through each of the schools and we told them to, hide. Lock your doors and hide, which was okay. That worked for a little while. But people are getting smarter. If you get your workplace violent, these are going to be people that work with you. They're going to know the hideouts as well. They're going to know where you hide, right? So you just always have to be thinking. So the first thing we're going to go through is, who thinks the first massive active shooter was, or the active shooting incident? Which one is the first one that comes to your mind? Columbine, right? Columbine, most everybody will say Columbine. Happened in 1999. We have had active shooters in schools and workplace since the 1800s. Every state has had one. Even poor little Bethel, Alaska had one. But why was Columbine the first one? You're right. April 20th, 1999. I've always said, you've always heard the shot heard around the world. It's been used a couple of times. It started World War I when John F. Kennedy was killed. They say the shot heard around the world. Well, the shot heard around the world for active shooter and mass murder was 11/20 when Rachel Scott was killed. She was the first one killed. She was out front of the school. She was eating lunch, and she was killed by, I believe it was Eric. So this is where it started. The reason it started is we watched it, right? We watched it from the very second. We even had kids on cell phones calling up from their hiding places, and they're calling up the media, and they're saying, I can hear them, they're coming. You can hear gunshots. We all watched this. Here's a picture of the student getting out of the library. He was shot in the head. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew he had to get out of there somewhere. So he broke out that window and was just going to fall out. But they were able to catch him and to bring him out. This is Eric and Dylan, two high school seniors that for some reason decided they wanted to go out this way. So we watched it, and we watched it for hours. Oh my gosh, it was hours. The police got hounded. They got smashed on how they handled this situation. But for their law enforcement at the time, we treated this type of thing as a negotiation, as a hostage situation, right? We're talking two kids inside this school. They were holding them hostage. So what did we do at that time with hostage negotiations? We called in our hostage negotiators and we tried to talk them out. We tried to figure out what they were doing. Eric and Dylan were so bored, they would go out here and shoot at the cops a couple of times, see if they'd come in after them, and the cops wouldn't come in after them. You know, they just wouldn't do. So they would walk around the school at their own leisure, and they would go to the library. There's 56 kids in the library that were hiding underneath desks, because that's what we told them. If there's problems, hide. You know, what did they train? They trained for fire, and they trained for earthquakes. Get up underneath stuff, you know, and so that's what they did. So they had all these students in there that were hiding, and Dylan and Eric, they'd get a little bored, and they'd run around, they'd talk to a few, no, I like you, they'd come over here, and they're like, I don't like you so much, and they'd execute them. Then they'd walk out and they'd shoot at the police again. They actually had a school resource officer that was there that engaged them within 3 minutes. But he didn't go in after them. He waited. By the time Eric and Dylan got so bored 47 minutes later that they killed themselves, there were over 300 officers sitting around here. So there's 47 minutes later, 300 officers. Now, how long do you think it took them to get inside that building and get everybody out? It took 4 hours. 4 hours. So the shot heard around the world. Rachel Scott was killed. SRO officer shot at the suspects. Sanders was a very well-liked teacher that was there, and he ran around and, oops, I'm going backwards. I think I can only go one way here. But well-liked teacher, he got shot helping kids. They took him into the science room, and they did whatever they could to help stop the bleeding. So hours later, here comes the SWAT, and they said, we need to get Sanders out of here. And they said, no, that's not what we're here for. We're looking for other shooters, and they took off and left. They came back an hour later, says, we've got to get Sanders out of here. He's dying. And SWAT said, nope, that's not our mission right now. Our mission is to get the kids out. So they grabbed all the kids, left Sanders. Went through the whole school, came back out an hour later, and Sanders had died of bleeding out. I don't know if you guys remember, and I kind of went past that picture. Let's see if I can go back. Right here. The students actually put this picture up against the window that said one bleeding to death inside the science room, hoping to get help. It took Sanders 4 hours to bleed out. We failed them, right? SWAT enters, they come back and they find him dead. I'm actually lost where I'm at here. Okay, 300 officers are on the scene, 3 separate SWAT teams. I mean, how many SWAT teams could you guys get here in a quick? You know, you probably have your local police, might be able to get some from Salt Lake. Columbine is basically Denver, right? It's just south of Denver. It's like Draper from Salt Lake, right? They had a ton of resources and they had a ton of people there. So 45 minutes of continual firing by the murderers, 6 hours from start to finish. Here are our victims right here. And this is Rachel Scott. She was a very religious person. The story goes that her and her friend were shot out they were eating lunch and they were shot where Eric and Dylan went up to her, asked her if she believed in God. She said yes, and they killed her. She was martyred, basically. So, the whole world, right? The whole world watched the police fail. They watched this active shooter thing go down for 4 hours. Watched these kids coming, jumping out of the school trying to get away. We decided we needed to do something. So in 2000 to 2010, the police chiefs of America decided to do this study. The cool thing that they did and what needed to be is they separated active shooter from a hostage. They're two separate things. We can't treat them as the same. So they gave active shooter a definition. It says, one or more persons killing or attempting to kill multiple people in an area or areas occupied by multiple unrelated individuals. Easy enough. Active shooter means somebody is actively killing somebody or attempting to kill somebody in an area just like this. So we don't do the hostage negotiations anymore. We don't hang back. We don't go in. If an active shooter had happened here and I'm the police going in and I see a body on the ground, a person that's hurt, the old way of thinking is you grab that person that's hurt, move them out, go in, you find a closet with 5 or 6 people, you move them out to safety. That's not what it is anymore. When there's an active shooter, law enforcement's going to go to the shooter. They're going to step over the top of people that are hurt, wounded, looking for help. Our job is to go stop the shooter. That's where it is now. So, 10 years. 10 years we did all this training. It's a great read if you're into it. They talk about so many different things. It's a great report. So 10 years later, you think we learned a lot, right? We learned a lot, and we're going to save a lot of lives. So the next big one that everybody talks about is Sandy Hook. 12/14/2012. We have a shooter come in. 9:34, the first gunshots were heard. Everybody had been through the training now. They knew what they were supposed to do. They hear gunshots. Call the police right away. They lock down the school right away. Officers were on scene in 5 minutes. How crazy is that? 5 minutes. Instead of 4 hours, they were in the school in 5 minutes. 9:40, the officers heard the last gunshot. 9:51, the officers find the gunman dead. He took his own life. Most of these shooters are going to take their own life. What they found in that study, it's somewhere around 70 to 80%. When they're confronted, they're just going to take their own life. So we're trying to get cops there fast because we're going to save lives. We redid all this. We retrained all of our officers, and we're going to save lives. So a lot of difference between Columbine and this one, right? 4 hours and, 17 minutes? 17 minutes start to finish. In 6 minutes, officers were in the building actively searching for the shooter. How did we do on this one? Did we save lives? Depends on how you look at it. 20 first grade students and 6 teachers were killed in that time. So did we?
Did he have more ammo?
Oh yeah. He did.
Shouldn't sell active guns,
Yep.
then we saved lives.
You dang right, we saved lives. Doesn't look like it, right? We went from 13 people dead to now 26, but we saved lives. If we were going to allow him to be there for 4 hours or 30 minutes, it would have been a lot more. Right? This is the third highest active shooter scenario now that we have Las Vegas in there. The second one is actually the Pulse in Orlando at the nightclub. That was 50. So, this was the big thing that came out of that. 10 years of government surveys, and this is really what we get. But this helps us a lot. It's this definition. So now we're running around and we're training people. We're going to train people what to do in the event of an active shooter, workplace violence, and these type of things, and what you guys yourself are going to do. Now, the FBI put out a video. We're going to watch this video, and I want you to think about when you're in your office, what you're going to do. If you hear the distinctive crack, crack of a gun down on the first floor, and you're right here, what you're going to do. Where's your spot of safety?
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference: run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911.
Yes, sir. Washington,
If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly.
Left, Lyson, get my back.
The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter.
Shot down the hall, shot down the hall. I got ripped.
Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Seems easy enough, right? See that? It was all good and kind of orderly and grabbing the people and running. No loud noises, no screaming and blood everywhere. Let's see. So, what we did at the sheriff's office is knew that we needed training, and we needed a lot of it. And this whole process of doing this big exercise that we did took about a year to get rolling. First of all, if we don't show you kind of where to hide and how to work around your office and your stuff, nobody's going to survive and nobody's going to know what to do. You know, you got to have some kind of a plan. So what we did is we started going around to every office in our admin building, just like this building, only not near as pretty. And we went to every office and we said, all right, you're in your office. Where are you going to go if something bad happens? If we get that code over the air that there's an active shooter, where are you going to go? Are your doors locked? Do you guys keep your doors to where you close them, they lock? We had one gal in there that for every day for the past 20 years, she'd take her keys, open her door with her keys, prop it open, and she left her keys there. That's how she never lost her keys, is when she left at night, she would grab her keys, lock her door. So I told her, I said, great. Active shooter, you're not by your desk, you're somewhere else. The active shooter now has the keys to every, she was high up there, would have a key to every door. So now she hides her keys. All of our doors are set to lock. If you close them, they'll lock. I'm not saying the doors are going to stop somebody if they want to come in. But realistically, what they're looking for is they're looking for body count. They're looking for body count fast. So whatever holds them up is going to hold them up and give you time, your coworkers time. So we went through every office. We found a safe place, or the safest place possible for every office, what to do if you're in the hallway. You've got citizens in your building all the time, right? Who's responsible for them? If they're close, you want to grab them, you want to bring them in. We talked a lot about concealed weapon, and I don't want to know how many people have concealed weapon or that we can use concealed weapons, but if you have one, there's a couple of different thought processes. Do you want to go out and hunt and try to stop the active shooter, or are you going to be there just to protect you and your coworkers? That's a decision you guys are going to have to make on your own. But I will tell you this, that concealed weapons don't work unless you have them on you and you practice. You'll see when we see this video on just how fast it goes. I shoot constantly and regularly. I compete. I'm a firearm instructor for both post and our department, and I would have had a hard time making any difference at all if I was unaware that this was this was happening. So the good part is there's only going to be one place in your building that's going to be surprised, right? Wherever the bad guy comes in. If you're in that spot, just hope it works out for you. But the rest of the people, there's usually plenty of time to get your plan started, right? So you're just going to have to remember first of these is you got to have a plan. Doesn't matter what kind of plan it is, have a plan. Write your plan down so that you'll look at it every now and then practice your plan. And it can just be practicing by thinking, what if, what if, you might have a plan for your office, but what if you're stuck between offices? Now what's your plan going to be? I don't know if you guys have code words that go over the intercoms to let other people know there's a problem. I would definitely start one of those if you could. And so we did this. We did this for a whole year in our office. Then we told them, sometime between this date and this date, we're going to do an active shooter. And us as police officers who are going to be the bad guys and everything, we thought that was going to be great. We're just going to sneak in and we're going to start an active shooter. Where our risk management attorney said, oh no, oh hell, no. So we had to do a bunch of other things. What was that? Oh, I thought you asked a question. So we had to do a bunch of other things. So we can't make it a surprise. Okay, all right, we can't make it a surprise. We actually have to give people a right to back out. It's going to be a pretty traumatic thing, right? So we had to write a letter basically that said, we're going to do this training. We want to make it as real as possible, but if you feel like you can't handle it, you can take that day off. We also had to put it in the paper and we had to close down the admin building. Can't have citizens in there while you're doing this training. So we had to close down the whole building. We had to run around to everybody. We couldn't ask if they had a concealed weapon, but we had to run around to everybody saying, on this date, at this time, do not bring your concealed weapon. Have it out in your car. Don't even bring it. We don't want somebody thinking it's a real thing. We live out in Duchesne County, right? I could just imagine somebody running into our admin office with a gun and somebody driving down the street with their hunting rifle go, oh, hell no. And so now they're going to get into it and they don't even know it's a training, right? So this is what we had to do. We had to tell them that on this date, between 1 o'clock and 1:15, from 1 o'clock to 5, the whole admin building is going to be shut down. We're going to have an active shooter between 1 and 1:15. So at 1 o'clock, I had to go through the whole building and talk to every person and say, do you have a gun on you? No? Good. Are you good with this? All right. And I went to the next one. You good? Went to the next one. Once I cleared the whole building, I took 5 of our officers and put them on every entrance door so that maybe somebody didn't come in looking to get their title recorded and didn't realize we're in the process. And they had to stay there. So then, to make sure nobody come into the parking lot, because we're going to have all kinds of stuff there, we had to put people at the parking lot locations too to keep people from coming in. That's how safe we tried to make it. We do not want to get anybody killed during training. So our officers up on the hill, and we'll go through that a little bit on how we made them safe as well. So this is what we did. This was and we wanted to include as many agencies as we could. So we're going to have a hazmat issue, and we're going to have some people that are hurt, wounded, and some that are dead. So this is it. If you guys are ever going to do a training this way, if you don't write down your goals, you're not going to know what you're going to do. You're just going to be out there playing and having a good time. So the goal of this training is to promote the highest chance of victim and responder survivability at the Duchesne County Administration Building. Our objectives are to learn to recognize potential workplace violence, prepare employees to react quickly. This is a big one. You guys all been reading about the Las Vegas shooting, right? it took them a long time to realize what was going on. And I've been to an outdoor concert. They're loud. You got people falling all over you. Anyway, it took them a long time to realize. Now, would you think that if I came up and gave you a paper and said, today at 1 to 1:15, we're going to do an active shooter, be prepared, that when those first bullets go off, do you feel like you'd know what that was? A lot of people didn't, even though they knew it was coming. They stopped and went, what was that? And they hesitated before they went to shut their doors and a few things. And it actually ended up getting our assessor. He's thinking about it and then went against policy and came back out to try to find somebody else, and he took one right in the... I have a date on here. I think it was, and you're going to see too, is we're so good as we did it in January. It's freaking cold in January, right? Okay, some more of our objectives: to provide guidance to all those who might be involved in an active shooter. Provide hands-on based, scenario-based training for law enforcement responders, take action. Provide hands-on scenario-based training for emergency personnel. We brought in all of our EMS. We brought our 2 life flight crews out, and we brought a hazmat crew. Provide hands-on scenario-based training for the fire department personnel. They were going to decontaminate the hazmat. Remind you, in mid-January. Examine the evacuation procedures for the employees of the administration building and review evacuation points. Examine emergency communications periodically between all first responding agencies and evaluate the effectiveness. And identify our strengths and weaknesses. Okay, these are our participants. I was the safety officer. My job was not to have any of the shooting, not to help anybody. My main objective was to make sure everybody was safe. We used simunition rounds, which are little paintballs, and we used blanks for the rifles. We had our emergency manager, our risk manager, EMS, AirMed, Tri-County Health, UCO. We tried to bring in everybody we could. And there's a lot that are missing up there. Okay, part of the safety plan was employee firearms. All firearms will be removed from the administration building. We actually went around to every person and made sure that they were gone. We didn't skip on that. Deputy firearms were left a mile away. It's a good thing nothing serious happened in the county at that time because we were all running fake guns. But we didn't want them even in their vehicle. Stress, and you'll see we've got one of our most experienced officers in this training, and he started doing weird things. He got stressed out. So we want to make sure everything's away. Actors' firearms, I went through their firearms and made sure that they were the correct ones. We notified the public that the building would be closed. We did it on January 26, 2016 from 12:30 to 5. Blocked the parking lot. And we activated the emergency lockdown. Okay, here we go. This was our scenario. January 26, 2 shooters armed with semi-automatic rifles and handguns entered the administration building to the northwest entrance and began shooting employees and civilians near the assessor's and the recorder's office. Now, we've done this 2 or 3 times, and we always come in a different point because wherever you come in is going to be the most action, right? The rest of the building, it's the most boring day you ever had. They lock themselves in an office and we come and get them 3 hours later, you know? So the shooters have with them several improvised explosive devices and attempted to set those off. Now that's not unrealistic. Columbine had the explosives, so we decided to use that as well. And they have some hazmat material. As you can see, we're trying to get everybody involved. Okay, we've got cameras all around our building. Some of them have sound to them, some of them don't, so you'll be able to hear some of the shooting and some of them not. I tried to follow them as they were going around the building. just to show how fast this stuff happens. So remember your plan, or kind of what the plan you had thinking. And I can't get this thing to work. You see, as he's going down through here, he's going into each individual cubicle looking for people. So if you feel like you're just going to hide up underneath your desk, so by that time, people are hearing, and they're starting to lock their doors. Now, he's just running around looking for body count. So if there's a door locked, he's not going to go in.
You're dead.
Yeah, she's our funny one. This is the recorder's office.
You're dead.
Oh, is that?
Okay, 10 seconds. 10 seconds before people started shutting their door. And we had, 10 people shot and killed in 15 seconds. Do you see how fast that could potentially go? It's not gonna, I've seen movies, and they're trying to be tough and act cool and go in and shoot. No, these guys, they're just unloading serious rounds. Okay, second part. So what we did is we went through and we did that part. And then we set up our wounded people and our people with hazmat, and then we called dispatch. They received the call that there was shooting in the building. Law enforcement personnel responded, and our first initial contact team, and their whole job is to just go in and find the shooter. They're not here to help anybody. They're just going to find the shooter. So this is our entry team 1. This first officer here, we set it up on purpose to have experienced officers with rookies. This is our experienced guy. These guys are actors. They're playing people trying to escape and hurt people, and this is our shooter bad guy. Now I'm going to stop this for just 1 second. For the simple fact that we in law enforcement, I'm going to have to explain ourselves. We in law enforcement, we train our officers to be lions, right? To be able to fight through anything, to have that combat mindset that you're going to go through everything and you're going to survive and you're going to save people. We teach that. That works very well until you're in a situation like this. Because you'll see some of our officers taking rounds, but they don't want to be done with the scenario. They're just going to still keep going. So we had our one officer who I can see took 3 or 4 rounds in the arm, and after this was over, he was trying to tell me, nobody hit me. I'm good, nobody hit me. I'm like, what's that on your arm? He's like, nothing. Nobody hit me. It was nothing. Because we actually had team number 2 that was supposed to come in and pick up where the officers left off if they were shot. But all of our officers that were shot, too big of egos, they weren't going down. And you'll see that throughout this. And they'd be mad if they knew I was telling everybody that. So here they come. They make contact with the bad guy. He sprints across. Now, right here, there's going to be a pretty good firefight, and from what our officers told us, that none of them were hit right here, which I think's baloney. Fact is, he actually looks at his arm and goes, "No, I wasn't hit at all. Don't you worry about it." So then our lieutenant over here, he takes one in the head right here, and he goes, "Ouch, yeah, that hurt. I don't want to be dead, so I'm just going to sit down. Maybe they won't know that I'm out," right? So this is just another view. This is where they're going to have the fight, and then our bad guy comes down here and acts like he's dead. Comes down, jumps on the floor, gets in a good position so he can still shoot, right? So this is his body camera. So our officers are still down there, and they all are kind of dead and not dead, so they're standing there. So our bad guy shoots at one, runs out of bullets. It's like, hell, maybe I better put some more bullets in there. And then shoots 3 more times at our lieutenant. And you can hear him hit each time. And the lieutenant's like, hell with that. And so he turns around and starts shooting back at him. So as you can see right here, this is where he gets shot. And he's like, all right, I'm back on one knee. I'm still in the game. And he starts taking rounds. So he gets a little mad, shoots back at him. It's like, dang it. That is the worst tactical place you could ever be, right? And nobody goes down there to secure our bad guy. Nope. Here comes our sergeant. He's like, oh yeah, I better take care of this guy, right? So he runs down there, kicks the gun away. And cops want to be in the fight all the time. So he's doing good. This is his guy. He's not going to leave him. Until he starts hearing the other officers getting a shootout. And then he's like, I've got to be there. I don't know what to do. I can't leave him. So he lets dispatch know.
That's the shooter down.
10-4-1 active shooter down.
You hear the firefight in the background. He's like, oh no, I need to be there. I better grab this bad guy's gun. I don't know why, but I'm going to grab this bad guy's gun. I'm going to go back and get in the fight.
I'm out.
Our bad guy isn't dead yet. He's the sheriff, actually. He can make up whatever rules he wants. So apparently he's not dead yet. Yeah. Let's see if this is this the same one we just looked at? Yeah. Okay. So this one is happening kind of at the same time as the last one. They just split off and they went to the other shooter. And our other shooter is down behind here. These 2 guys are going up. She turns around the corner, fires some shots at them. Of course, they haul ass. Excuse me. And this is the body camera of shooter number 2. And this one does have sound, so you have to listen to that wounded person scream the whole time.
Ooh! Ooh! Uh-oh, somebody just got shot in the head.
They hurt a little bit when you get hit. Okay, so here's team number 2. Here is the sergeant who grabbed the bad man's gun. And he's like, oh, that's too many guns. So he's going to give it to this guy who comes in. Say, here, you hold this one. I'm going to go get her. And he decides that he's John Wayne, and he, against being shot at and everything else, he just goes around the corner and stops it. I think he was probably hit 5 or 6 times throughout this, but he was like, no, I have to wait. Good. This is going to be the ending of that. And they take this one alive. Somebody's going to need to shoot her too. She was loud. This little wall right here where this fight took place.
All right, I'm dead.
They actually, this little wall right here, this is just another angle. He runs around and shoots her. They had to fix and repaint it. There was like 60 bullet hits on it, just right here. So they take her into custody. She's alive. Now remember, we talked about explosive devices too. And during our briefing, we told them there were going to be some explosive devices in this scenario. So these are explosive devices. The sheriff just kind of made them, kind of threw them out there a little bit. There was actually one down here. They did a pretty good job of only kicking it once. So the sheriff, he's not dead yet. And you can hear down there saying, he's moving. He's moving. The cops weren't listening to her. She's trying to tell him that he's moving. So he hides himself here and he takes a bomb, puts it out about right here. Now he told me later that if the officers treated it like a bomb and got out of there, nothing would happen. But if they kept showing up and kept on to it, then it was going to explode. So team number 2 comes in. And this is team number 2.
Gun. Watch the bomb.
Yeah, he stepped over the bomb. Blew him up. They wouldn't let me really blow up the building. So. He did. Okay. So now basically we have it cleared from the gunman. So what we would do now, what's going to happen now is you guys are all going to be locked in your office, and I even suggest having drinks and snacks in there, because what happens the very second the shooting stops? It's a crime scene now, right? We don't know about any more explosives. We need to gather evidence. We need to gather evidence of the crime before you guys come out. You could potentially be locked in your office or your safe place for a long time. So we have some hazmat problems. So we bring in Tri-County Health. I don't know if you guys have a health department here. I'm sure somewhere. They'll come in and they'll identify what the hazmat is and they'll start cleaning it. Fire set up a decontamination tent out in the parking lot. Do you guys know what a decontamination tent is? It's pretty much a tent, and they spray water on you in January. EMS will triage, and then it kind of turns into an EMS thing after that. Contamination, what we actually did is we actually took like oatmeal and put it on people, and that was supposed to be what they threw on somebody, and it was supposed to be some hazmat. So this gal here, she's got it all over her, and I am not an EMS expert, and I'm not a hazmat expert. But I'm not sure they did this correctly. I think you kind of need to contain whatever bad stuff you have, and they end up brushing it off her right there. So now it's all airborne and around there. So they brush it off of her with all the people around. You actually have to kind of giggle at yourself because this is all training. You learn from doing things wrong. The fact of the matter is, in my mind, you learn better. If you've ever been embarrassed at doing something, you're never going to do that again, right? So, yeah, we learned. They learned a lot. We actually had some of the kids come in and they actually had wounds painted on them and things like that. So this is late December, and they weren't able to hook up the heaters to the water yet. And so they're going through their hazmat. I finally have to break in after a few minutes and tell them to be done. It was,
Where's the blankets out on this other end? Oh, she's got them, okay. What we would have to do is,
oh, she looks cold.
we would have to send here, drop all the sheets into that, we drop on.
And what they would do afterward and what their policy is you can't put you got to wait till the decontamination's done before you put them in a helicopter or an ambulance or anything else. So they had 2 or 3 that they were doing. So while they were making sure it was done, they put them on a gurney, put a little blanket on them, and just let them sit out there while they were doing the other one. I walked through, and Holly, the one that was yelling the whole time, finally I told him, "You're done, just get her into a ambulance." Same one. The gal that was in there screaming, she was also wounded by gunfire, and she had hazmat, so it actually took EMS and hazmat to deal with her. But pretty much the same thing. I think we'd probably have to burn the whole place with all the hazmat around there now. Another thing that we had to deal with as well, Roosevelt gets an inversion. It's just like Salt Lake, we get it, and we get it big time in the winter. So we're low to the ground, Roosevelt and Vernal, that when that inversion comes in, we'll be socked in by fog. 5 miles out of town, it'll be a bluebird day. In Roosevelt and Vernal, it is the thickest fog you could imagine. And some of our life flight wasn't able to take off.
Fire 100, fire 160 on fire ground.
Fire 100, go ahead.
I have one patient coming out. Decontamination. Okay, let me get one more.
She actually stops
Okay? Get a more sweat up on here.
screaming so much when she gets so cold she can't.
Is there another
Just
EMS
chatters.
team in the building right now?
I think there's another one.
Fire 100, fire 160 on fire ground.
Go ahead.
Yeah, can we get one more person here in the SCBA, please?
Affirmative, Wilson, we're in.
Okay. Is it air? That's not air. All right. Can you make sure you keep your hand over that? Okay.
Okay, guys, let's go.
Okay, so all the time that this is happening, it's going to be happening. You guys are going to be stuck in your office or your hidey hole or wherever you're going to be.
Okay, let's,
And I'll just talk a little bit as we're going through this. This is just them moving them around. We've tried many different things with our agency on how to evacuate the building after something like this happened. At one time, we had a code word. It was tomato. So if somebody comes, knocks on the door, right, it's like, sheriff's office, how do we know? Tomato. Then you can open the door, right? Didn't really work that way. People don't remember. We have a lot of people that aren't working there anymore. You look like an idiot when you're up there with your gun and you're like, tomato, tomato, open the door. And so this is them decontaminating her. not real fun.
Now we got one more. Gotta go back.
She did. Yeah, she did. I would feel pretty bad. And after a few minutes of her sitting there, I said, all right,
You guys want to get the journey over here? As soon as we get her plane, we're going to transfer it to you guys.
So they finally put a blanket on her. But as we're going, if it's a workplace violence incident, people are going to know you and they're going to know our rules, like tomato and that. So we did one a few years ago, and everybody got locked in their office just the way they were supposed to be. Well, shooter, our bad guy comes up, sees that the name on the office is Sturmer. Mr. Sturmer, it's over, you can come out now. He comes out with a big old smile and he just popped him once and went down, right? Once you are in your safe area, law enforcement will have a key. They will come in. They will announce. Don't open your door for anybody. They will have a key. They will announce, and then you come out. Okay? No more tomato words or don't open your door. Emergency Air Med was contacted. Like I said, some of them couldn't come out because of the inversion. But Holly was happy because even though she was cold and covered with crap, she got to have a helicopter ride and took her around her house. You guys have Classic Air Med around here? Great company to work with. They will come and train at any time. Very good. Okay, once we get to that point, we're going to evacuate. Like I said, don't open the door for anybody. We will have a key, we will knock, we will announce. Do whatever we ask you to do. We want your hands in the air. We don't want you to be asking questions. Just, we're getting you out there. Now, supervisors, you need to, just like schools, you need to have a daily account of who's in your office. Once we get you out to our safe area, you're going to write down who you are, your name and everything. We need to know how many people were in the building. Because people are going to hide, right? During the San Bernardino, there's people up in the ceiling tiles and things like that. They were hiding. We need to know where these people are, how many people were in there. So department heads know who's came to work that day, who wasn't at work today. It would help out immensely. Evacuation, we will go through, we'll start at one specific part and we will go through every office. And what we'll do is we'll actually have a line of officers and they will say, all right, go to that officer. And then that next officer will tell you to go to a different position. We're trying to move you around evidence. We're trying to move you around bombs. We just don't want you running out somewhere and we'll have a place where you meet.
Take them out the northwest side of the building due to the bomb.
This guy right here is the one that was shot a whole bunch of times. He's still in the game. He's still going.
I will send them to you when they start coming.
Cops have those attitudes, right? And it's not entirely their fault. We treat them that way.
That door right here. Sheriff's office.
Sheriff's office.
When the door's locked, we'll open it.
Sheriff's office.
Those that are guarding the doors, you keep a log if you can.
Should we go
of
to
who's
this
going
locked door
in and
next?
who's going out.
Sheriff's office. You on lockdown? Are you on lockdown or?
Yeah.
Alright, we're getting you out.
Evacuating you.
Put your
So as you can see in a big building, that's going to take a long time to get you out of there.
Sheriff's office.
Kilo 502.
Hands on your head. Out the door on the right. Hands up, hands up.
What we did realize is
He's door blade out this
our body cams are right here. That's where our guns are at. That's where our hands are at a lot of time, and a lot of it didn't come out very well. These big 360-degree ones, they work pretty well. I just wish they had sound to them. Cameras are getting better all the time. You know, we would never have been able to do this 10 years ago. But this was the main area. We had 10 people shot or killed in this area right here. And it's just like Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook was reduced down to one classroom. Just that one classroom, but that one classroom was pretty big. I had to put in here, where are we at now? This is the same room, this is going through and searching it. We'll never know how many people are out there. Have you guys heard all the rumors that are going with this Las Vegas one? Now they're saying that there were people on the ground letting fireworks off to distract. They don't know how many people. We're going to start getting reports. There could be 2 people here, but we could get reports that there could be upwards of 3 or 4. We don't know how many. And we won't know how many until we get everybody out of there. And workplace violence, it could be somebody that works there. You know, you just don't know. Workplace violence is getting pretty big. I have to do this. This is one of our county commissioners right here. I'm pretty sure that's not the first time he's been in that position. So I made sure he got his little fame in there. It takes a long time, and it takes a really long time to put one of these together safely. Back east, they were doing one, and one of the trainers got killed. Somebody had a gun that they didn't check. You can tell by the officers. These are seasoned officers doing not so seasoned stuff. You get freaked out a little bit. Even in training, you get freaked out a little bit. And so the only way to counteract that is to train more. But how often can you put one of these together? Even if you did one a year, that is a massive, massive thing. You're having to shut down the building. You know, you're having to do a lot of things. Just the overtime that we paid for all these, it's immense. So statistics, that fast. How fast was the shooters actually shooting? Altogether, maybe 2 minutes, something like that. Over 150 rounds were fired in the building that day. 10 people were either shot, killed, or wounded by gunfire. 3 officers were wounded or killed. Yeah, I told them they were shot. They were part of this, even though they were running around the whole time. Our lieutenant took 1 in the head and 3 in the arm. 2 officers were killed by the big explosion, and 2 civilians were detoxed by hazmat. 1 shooter was dead by the explosion, and the other one is in custody. So, what worked? What worked? What do you guys think? Any of it? Some of it? You have to do something, right? You have to have a plan. And you have to practice your plan. You have to write your plan down so you know it, so that somebody else knows it. I mean, you guys don't sit in your one office all day, right? So you might have a plan for your office, but what if we're in here right now? You got to plan. So practice, write it down, plan it, practice it, write it down, and know without a doubt that when something happens, your plan ain't gonna work. Be flexible. If you can get out of the building, get out of the building. If you have a great place to hide, hide there. If you have to fight, I know a lot of you cops, we train it in. We train it into cops that they have to do something and they have to be violent at times. And to take somebody's life or to protect somebody, we have to be violent, very violent. Have you made that decision to be violent? It's hard, isn't it? Have you made the decision to be violent? Very good. My wife did one of these classes here not too long ago. And if I wanted to be beat up, I would do this too, but I don't want to be beat up. But their instructor had them get into their office, and then he came in like he was shooting, and they needed to take him down. So they had 3 women trying to take down this gunman. And Marcy, my wife, said it was difficult. It was very difficult to get that much anger, that much everything, to be able to do that if you haven't decided on doing it. So look at things that are in your office.
That being said, isn't it a good idea to kind of evaluate your coworkers' personalities so that you know which one cannot be handled?
I get you. I get you. I think that's a good idea, but then I also think if you're looking around and it's like, all right, if I'm in an active shooter and I have to take down an active shooter with just my hands, I'm probably going to want you, I'm going to want you, and I'm definitely going to want you. And so in my mind, that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm planning. All of a sudden, it happens, and I'm like, where are you at? You're not, it depends on, it's all who you stick with, right? Did you see how fast that active shooter guy came through? Both of them. Even if I was sitting in this room right now and a feller walked in there and started shooting, I shoot a lot, and I would have a hard time making a difference. It's that fast. If you have a concealed weapons and you keep it in your purse at your desk, locked in your desk, it's not going to do a whole lot, except if they start from the other end of the building. Right? They start from the other end of the building and you hear them coming. You lock the door, you get as many people as you can, and you use that to protect the people that are in that with you. If you don't have a weapon or a handgun, what's a good weapon? You got chairs, computer. I've always liked, a lot of people now are using mace, having mace in their office. It's going to get you 2. But I guess that works. Fire extinguishers are good. Anything that you have. Those students at Columbine, those 60 or 56 people that were in the library hiding under desks and things like that, they just stayed there. We never want you to just stay there. Now, if nobody's coming after you, you can stay there. But when the bad guy is there, the bad guy breaks your space and comes into this room, now you're going to have to do something. You're not just going to sit there anymore. It's where the fight comes in. It's where you're going to have to decide if that's what it be. And there's going to be people that aren't going to fight. They're probably most. But it's a decision that you're just going to have to make. Absolutely. You make that decision today. That's right. You make the decision every time that you walk in here and what's going to happen. Now, active shooter is in the mental consciousness right now. We just had Las Vegas. People tend to forget. People forget about Columbine. People forget about Sandy Hook. People forget about the Orlando shooting. They forget about San Bernardino. And San Bernardino, the office place shooting was absolutely scary because they went to 2 different places. We have enough resources in this area to probably handle 1. If the bad guy gets out and starts somewhere else, we're in serious trouble. All of our resources go to one place. There won't be anybody else. I was hoping that's a trend that wasn't going to happen, and it did. We're not seeing it again. But Las Vegas, it's on everybody's mind right now. So there's always copycats. They're always worried about the people coming in and doing it again. So watch yourself. The last thing that I want to say on this before we take questions is none of this is made to scare you. None of it is made to scare you. The fact of getting hurt by an active shooter or workplace violence is still very, very low. So don't be afraid. I would hate to live life being afraid. But be aware. That day that we told them that we were going to do an active shooter, I had the most aware admin staff in the world. I would pull up in my truck and everybody was plastered by the window going, "Are they coming?" We actually had to hide the shooters inside the building because there's no way we could have got them to the building. That type of prevention is what's going to save lives. Not having a baseball bat in your office or anything else. It's watching. It's paying attention. I remember all of us know the days where you get your new hunting rifle and you'd bring it to work to show your buddies. It's like, check this out. And you're out in the parking lot, right? It was a normal thing. It's not normal anymore. Err on the side of caution. If you happen to look out your window and you see somebody that even you think has a firearm, showing a firearm, initiate your lockdown procedures and call the police. You can do that 1,000 times and law enforcement isn't going to care. It's the one time that's going to be bad. So be vigilant on what you're doing. Be vigilant of the things that are out there. I know everybody that comes into this building during the work week, they're not all happy, right? Recorder's office, assessor's office. Yeah. Watch what people are doing. Watch what people say. If you have any issues with it, get a hold of law enforcement. You know, they are not going to care if you are just being vigilant. Watch what's going on around you. It surprises me. I got remarried here a few years ago, and I've packed a gun for 25 years now, every day. And when I got remarried, my wife, you know, of course, it's new to her that I'm packing a gun. It is amazing that I can pack this gun and how many people won't see it in a day. If I'm in a uniform, they will. But if I'm just dressed normally and the gun's still out there, people don't even notice I'm wearing one. That's probably something you ought to be noticing. Be aware. Don't be scared. None of this is to be afraid. Just have your plan and know what you're going to do. All right. Is there any questions? Oh, a few.
How often, or if you do, how often do you guys do some sort of refresher training, plan review?
We try to do plan review yearly. We have our risk management team, and they'll go through and we'll do that. As far as actually putting one of these together, they're few and far between. I actually will teach this to some of our bigger employers in the area, and we'll kind of go through their procedures and stuff as well, as long as the schools. So for each individual building, it's not very often. But as far as law enforcement, it's, you know, every couple of months. That's what we do. Yes?
Okay, so what if you're in there hiding and you have that one coworker that's like screaming and won't calm down? I know you're not supposed to throat punch him or anything like that. What do you do to make him? Because obviously you don't want to say, "Hey, shooter, we're in here," because
Yeah, you're hiding, right? Yeah. It's like, maybe you ought to do the run portion of it and open the door and let them go. You know, I don't know either, but I have been known to throat punch. So whatever you can do to kind of keep it quiet, especially if it's an active shooting. If you can hear the shooters coming in Columbine, if you guys really want to look up on there, the kids had their cell phones and they can say, "I'm hearing the shots, they're coming closer," and they're trying to be really, really quiet as they're going through this. Something like that, and they're crying. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Yeah. Get their attention and know that being quiet is probably very important right now. So, anyway, yes?
We saw the body cams
We're looking at different ones right now as we speak. Our CERT team are looking for the ones that are up on the helmet. That helps a lot too. With the video, with the body cameras, you can still see what's going on, and it makes great for evidence and everything else. It just doesn't make very great video for putting one of these on. You know, you want to be able to see the whole thing. Body cameras right now are big and huge and controversial and expensive, and there's new ones coming out all the time. So hopefully our SWAT guys will get them up on top of their helmet and give us a little bit better view. We would have seen him take a shot right in the head if he had a good body camera on there. Yeah, there's evidence because apparently these guys don't believe they were shot. So yeah.
So being the victim advocate county, did you decide that you wanted victim advocates to be part of that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is that part of your team?
No, you didn't see that on there because we probably wouldn't have you at the admin office. You would be at the evacuation site. And the evacuation site was, you know, it was through the parking lot and a big warehouse there. And so that's where the victims advocacy would be. And that's a question too. My wife was a victims advocate too, so yeah. By the time that we evacuate everybody out, we get everybody's name and we know that the building is cleared, then it's going to be like a stage 3, and that's going to be where we're going to have our mental health in, we're going to have families there, the media is going to be through the roof, and that's a whole nother part that I don't want to be involved in. Yeah, I don't want to be involved in that. Anything else? That was pretty easy. I'll answer anything. Okay, that's all I've got for you then.